Welcome back to Grid Gym. My name is Adam Reese, and today we're going to go into the moral dilemma of eating animal protein in a conscious world. And if you're over 50 years old and you have some joints that you are questionable about working out and you wonder how you're going to do this thing, this exercise thing and this nutrition thing to get to where you want to go and live the way that you want to live, definitely come out here, click down below and sign up for one of those strategy sessions. It's free, it's 1 hour with one of us. We'll sit down with you and go over everything. But anyway, that's down below. So what is the moral dilemma of eating animal protein in a conscious world? Well, a lot of people actually deal with this on a very real basis. We hear this every now and then, and it is a hot topic. Now, this is like a resurgence every 5 years or so, and it's always really interesting because people drastically undercut their protein intake and they wonder why they feel so terrible and they don't quite connect the dots, and they have this issue where they're constantly bombarded with this idea that you should feel terrible for eating animal protein. Now, the thing there is, this is a reasonable dilemma. I mean, you are taking a life, and we're gonna get into that in a second. But to lay some groundwork before I get there, first, there is a case to be made for animal protein. You cannot be healthy without this. All the raw food diet people are impaired. You can sustain your life. You can live your life that way, but you will be malnutritioned. All the vegan health people, all the vegan people, they are malnutritioned. There is no way that you can possibly, your body is just set up for this. So the reason that, the two leading reasons for why our brains developed the way they did was because the chimps that are our ancestors in the area of Africa that we originate from, that area of the world started to dry. Now these chimps were omnivores, so they ate animals and plants. At the time, before this drying effect takes place, they are mostly eating other vegetation and a little bit of other animals. When the drying takes place, they don't have as much vegetation, so they're naturally going to eat other animals, right? So boom, brain grows from the increased protein, and we're still not humans yet, by the way. They're still not, this is not Homo sapiens. These are advanced chimpanzees. At this point, though, they're smart enough that they figure out fire. When they figure out fire, they figure out cooking. When they figure out cooking, they are able to take care of a massive amount of the digestion process. And so that's why if you look at a human versus a chimp, the chimp guts are real wide. They're real thick through their torso because they have so many, they have such a long GI tract, where humans have a very, very short GI tract. The reason that we have a very short GI tract is because we don't have to digest the food like the chimp does. We actually cook it first and then we're able to digest it. When we did this, we basically, through evolution or adaptation or whatever you want to call it, would be the technical term, we traded our guts for brains. So we have a short gut and then we got this big, huge brain, poof, consciousness, right? All of a sudden we are a conscious animal, we know what's going on. Now, so that's like the brain growth thing. So from that, you can surmise that protein intake and animal, cooking your food, cooking animal products and consuming them is a very good thing for our health. There are certain things that you are just not going to get from plants. I know that vegans try to tell you that there is everything, you can get everything, but you can't get like creatine, L-carnitine. I'm blanking on a few now. I'm doing this all from the cuff. So vitamin K, you're going to be short on B complex. There's tons of different things that you're going to benefit from eating animal products, especially grass-fed beef, which I'm going to go into here in a second. Now, we get into the moral dilemma of taking the life, all right? I think that that's really where this comes from. You're taking a life to sustain your own. So one thing to consider there is an onion, a tomato, a piece of lettuce, all of them, you're still taking a life. And it's proven that plants feel pain, they just don't scream and yell like what you would imagine that an animal would do if an animal was being killed. So you're still taking a life even if you're just eating vegetables. So we have to put that on the side and just use that and keep that in mind as we're going through this. So are you going to sacrifice your health for the animal being able to live? And now I think that you're getting into the real dilemma. Because you are sacrificing your health for the animal to live. However, the animal has a purpose, just like you have a purpose in your life. So how are you going to hash this thing out? From my perspective, and I'm going to get into more stuff here on the health side here in just a second, but from my perspective, It's not the jerk that takes the life to sustain their own. The jerk is the person who isn't grateful for the life that was given for you to sustain your own. And when you see it that way, there's an added, and like this gets into kind of like philosophy and like spirituality, but there's an added responsibility to your purpose in your life. The cow died so that you could fulfill your purpose in your life. That increases the responsibility of what you have on your shoulders to go out and provide the world with the gifts that you do have to a greater degree, if that makes any sense at all. I hope that I put that in a decent way. You guys can write down below if you agree, disagree. I would like to hear your perspective on that right there. But anyway, so if you do sacrifice, you're impaired. If you do sacrifice your health for the animal, then you're not going to be as healthy. So what do? Well, there is something to consider with the death of the animal. So I think they shocked them at one point. I think they cut the carotid or the jugular at one point. Also, if you saw No Country for Old Men, you saw a device that was used that is an air compressor that's very quick, snapped inside of the head, took it out, and that was that. And the animal died instantly. So there is that. So if you watch an animal on like Discovery Planet or anything die by the hands of nature, it's an incredibly different process than that quick little death that was given right there. So can you create a humane death? I think that's about as quick as you possibly can. A bison stuck in the mud being eaten by wolves alive is a much worse death. So I think nature is much more of a terrible way to die than how humans are able to do it. So anyway, so where do we go to? Because factory farming isn't necessarily good for us. Factory farming isn't good for a lot of things. So how do we look at this thing? Well, if we look at regenerative agriculture from polyface farms, these are farms that have a lot of different types of animals on it because they all kind of work with nature. So in a polyface farm, you would have cattle because cattle are good for the grass. And really what a polyface farm is a grass farm. So you grow the grass and then you have the cattle come on there and the cattle eat the grass down. And then as they're doing that, they're laying down manure and other things. And then every 1 to 3 days, you move the cattle to another paddock. So it's in this paddock and then you move it over. And then you keep doing that. And then after 2 or 3 days, you move the chickens on after where the cattle were. And after the cattle were there, there's going to be bugs and all kinds of things that are worms and everything that are in the wake of the cattle. And then that's what the chickens eat. And then you do that cyclically with all of the animals. And you do this with lambs, pigs, everything. More in line with nature. And then your beef that you're actually eating, let's stick with beef. Your beef has higher CLA. It has less contaminants that you wouldn't want. It's a healthier calf that you're eating, leading to better health for you. The chickens are free range. These chickens don't have to go through even one ammonia bath, and they have less bacteria than the factory raised chickens. Also, they're not going to be consuming harmful seed oils like canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil. That's actually the most prevalent way that we consume our seed oils is through chicken. So free range eggs, free range chickens, that's how you want to consume them from these polyface free range farms. And then the same thing with your pork, same thing with your lamb, all these different animals that you could potentially be consuming. And then it's better for you, better for the environment, better for the farmer, better for economic wise, because the more of the money that you actually used goes to the actual farmer. There's less gasoline transporting everything. There's less fertilizer. I don't know if you want to use the word humane, but it's a little bit of a more in line with nature sort of thing. So these are just a few perspectives around the consumption of animal products. Now, how much animal products should you be consuming? You could survive on 1/4 pound of beef per day, but I don't think that you would be doing very well. What most people will benefit from is 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. 4 ounces, which is about the size of a deck of cards, that's about 25 grams. If you check me on Google on this, you'll get wildly different answers. It's not wildly, but it's pretty close in there, but also there's no exactness to this unless we were to actually burn the deck of cards or the 4 ounces of meat to know how many calories or how many grams of protein were actually in there. So anyway, that's a pretty good measuring stick. If you would like to chime in on the discussion below, please do hit the comments. And also, there is that free strategy session down there. I try to do this one justice, but this is a topic that has a lot of people that get really angry about it. So I don't know. I definitely think it's worth the discussion, though. I think it's very silly to think that these things just aren't up for debate, you know? So anyway, weigh in below in the comment section. Like it if you like it. And if you didn't like it, go ahead and tell us why. But there's also that strategy session down there. If you're over 50 and you have some joints that you still want to exercise, but you don't want to injure your joints, we are the people to talk to. Go ahead and click that link down below. Sign up for a free strategy session. And we will have you out here. We'll give you a call. We'll have you out here, and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks, guys.